Greetings, people of Earth. I'm Rick Harold. Thanks for watching my videos and listening to my podcasts. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about the management history that we ran into at InstallShield. Our company, as you know, started with 2 people. So the management issue there is just 2 people arguing about everything. Not too bad. But we ran into trouble and difficulty as we grew the company, as you would imagine. We luckily had a product that we worked very hard on and that was selling. And in order to sell it, we needed salespeople, we needed marketing people, we needed additional engineers because there's a lot of features or things we need to test, and support people, especially our product, because the development product has a lot of support needs because it's a technical product and you need technical people to support it. So as you grow the company, we went through a series of phases. When we got to about 50 people, it changed. We started not knowing really everybody there, Varush and I. And Varush and I worked very closely together the whole history of the company. Got to 100 people, 150 people, and it's always kind of lagging in the sense of our management. So we would be managing like we were at 50 people when we had 100 people, and then all of a sudden we'd be overworked or there'd be all kinds of problems occurring because the management wasn't there, the support structure wasn't there. So we went through a series of phases, and then we finally got up to about 300 people. And as I've talked in some other videos about trying to get ready for a public offering, there's also the board of directors, and there's senior managers you bring in that are more professional. They have more of a bigger company mentality, and that's the whole idea is we're going to be a bigger company, and they're going to help us get there. And it doesn't always work out right. And this is just kind of a story of people and getting people in there. But we realized that as we were going along, we needed to have strategies or mechanisms that we wanted to use to motivate and manage people. So early on, we worked with Microsoft fairly closely, and one of the people, Jim McCarthy, that worked there on the C++ team. C++ was a big win for Microsoft. Initially, they were not in the game, and it was Borland, and Microsoft was getting their butt kicked. And this is actually one time I got to meet Bill Gates, was at a C++ conference for developers. So we obviously used the products from Microsoft and implemented our products with it. He was there. I got to say hi to him. And he was really gung-ho at the time because Windows was just still really kind of beginning and the development tools from Microsoft were beginning. And he's very cutthroat. Borland ended up losing out big time. But the point I'm getting at is we were growing, and Jim McCarthy, who ran the C++ team, was leaving Microsoft, creating a team of people who would help motivate and organize management because he ran a big team at Microsoft. I don't remember how many people they had. It's probably 300-400. We didn't have anything like that. I think we probably had maybe 100 or 150 at the time. So he came in. We had this offsite with a lot of people. It was interesting. We were wearing togas. Let's put it there in Seattle. So it was useful, and we were able to borrow part of the essence of the idea. And part of the big essence I got of that was you need to involve everybody in the decisions you're making, not just one guy in a room kind of a thing. And we had been the one guy in a room for the most part, so we started including other people in the conversation. They had more points in it that we didn't probably adopt all of them, and I don't actually remember all of them right now, but that was one of the main things, so that really anybody could be giving feedback into what the product needs to do. Now, this would add lots of debate and discussion, which is good, but you need to be able to kind of control that in some quantifiable way so that you're not just sitting there endlessly debating, because that's easy to do too, especially if a particular group's leader isn't very strong or willing to cut off and say, okay, that's enough, we've debated this. Recently, Jeff Bezos, I think it was probably a year ago now, had the 80% rule about a decision, and it's a really good one because if you look at a decision from a curve point of view, the last 20% is probably an asymptote for the most part, and you're just endlessly hashing out things, and then you get into like personality problems with people trying to make decisions. So it's good to get input and then get it documented and move on. And it doesn't mean things are written in stone, but you need to move on from the process. So that was something that was helpful then. But as we got bigger, it wasn't enough. So then we started getting in 200 people, and we had cross-organizational issues. So we got into a like a Franklin Covey kind of thing where we needed a broader set of procedures and process in terms of how we interacted. And I'm not going to go into the specifics here, but the big thing we got out of this one was creating a unified vision for the company. So, and we didn't really have that before. I mean, you might get different ideas if you ask different people what you think the vision for the company was. Even for Rush and I might not have the same exact idea. Make money. Other than that, in terms of what we were doing. So this next phase was really defining the vision that then percolated down so that then people could provide input so that everybody was kind of rowing the same way. Now, in both these situations, and the second one even more, once you have a ship moving of people, an organization, and trying to instill different processes, different ways of thinking is difficult, and difficult getting it to move. There's lots of resistance. And the big thing here is the vision's great. The subvisions, I forget the terminology now, are great too. And everybody's got their own sub points that are supposed to support that. But then comes the execution part, right? And that's an area where the procedures are supposed to help. And not to be procedure guy, but it's an area where we didn't really follow through as well. Now, just like with everybody else, there's real life problems we're dealing with, customer problems or product problems or competitors or Windows operating system changes or the internet, whatever. It takes a lot of dedication and a lot of insistence that you're going to keep these procedures so that you don't lose the fact that the vision's supported down here and you're trying to make sure you're all rowing the same direction. So some of our execution didn't happen. Some of the senior management didn't have the same buy-in to the process. It did improve things. It was better, but it could have been better. Let's put it that way. Then we finally got to a larger number of people, around 300. And these numbers, I don't remember the exact transition points, but where we started to need these procedures and this execution to be better. So then we started looking at Six Sigma. Six Sigma was a big deal. Jack Welch, I read a book. I don't know if he wrote it or someone wrote it for him, but I read about it and Rush got into that and we're like, this sounds really good. I'm not going to talk about Six Sigma, but it sounded really good. Sounded like it would solve a lot of problems. But for 300 people in our type of organization using software, it wasn't. We spent a bunch of time on it. Luckily, we actually started in a small area first. And like with any of these things, execution is what matters here, and if follow through, right? But by the end of that point, we got in discussions about being acquired, and then I know it's pointless to talk about it anymore because when you get acquired, everything changes. So we got to a good point. Again, like with anything, we're always learning, always taking something out of the process. I think we probably could have been a lot more consistent with our execution and our procedures, and it would have made a difference. But that takes discipline, right? You have to stick with it. And a lot of our managers were able to do it. A lot of them weren't. The ones that are at Flexera right now are a lot of the top managers that were really good. And I'm sure are very procedure-oriented where they are now and very good at keeping consistency going on in terms of getting products and releases done. So that's a little bit of a discussion of the management of a company going from 2 to 300. Obviously, there's infinite more details in there. Ask any questions you want. I'll do my best at answering them. So thanks again for listening, and take it easy.